Well, good morning. Good morning. My name is Esther Loveridge, and I'm pleased to be sitting in this position as platform with Phil Pearson. But we come together in this place to share our love, to share our concern for one another, to share the joy of being unified in spirit and in truth. And it's just wonderful. So I welcome each and every one of you who have chosen to be with us this hour. Thank you for being here. And thank you for bringing your light, your smiles, and your joy to all of us today. It's just wonderful to know that no matter what state of mind we're in or what state we live in, this is the day the Lord has made, and we are rejoicing and being glad in it. Our daily word today is very reflective. It seems like as I read the daily word, I'm always amazed, and I don't know why I should be amazed, but I'm amazed at the appropriateness of the word, the daily word every day. It just seems to tie in to what's going on in all of our lives. And today the word is freedom. The Christ within is my source of freedom. Freedom is my spiritual birthright. I live my freedom when I speak my mind, pursue my dreams, and live with dignity and self-respect. It means I am self-directed, and I use my spiritual gifts of understanding, faith, love, and strength to guide my decisions and actions. As I do, I feel free. I feel free. I do what I can to support freedom for myself and others. I honor and give thanks for all those whose courage and dedication in service have helped build and sustain a world where all people can know true freedom. In prayer, I envision a harmonious human community that assures everyone's basic needs are met, respects differing viewpoints, and celebrates the unique expression of God that each person is. Yes, we are all unique expressions of God, and blended together with a chorus we make. And from First Peter, second chapter, and the 16th verse, as servants of God, live as free people, yet do not use your freedom as a pretext for evil. Do unto others as you'd have do unto you is a nice addition to that. So we are just so thankful for these waning days that we have to still be together and support one another and love one another. And I'm so again glad that you are here today. And we can now do our affirmations that there is only one presence, one power, one love active in my life. Would you repeat that with me? There is only one presence, one power, one love active in my life, God the good, omnipotent. It's so nice to reaffirm that every week. And the same is true for all of you and everyone else in our world. And we can say this together. There is only one presence, one power, one love active in your life, God the good, omnipotent. Just envision that for every family member, every neighbor, every coworker, for all the people you haven't met yet, there is only one power. And within our ministry, this truth holds true here too. Together, there is only one presence, one power, one love active in this ministry, God the good, omnipotent. And knowing that this power is not limited to us and to you and to our ministry, but to the entire world, we say, there is only one presence, one power, one love active in the world today. God, the good, omnipotent. Feel free to say this whenever you need to reaffirm the peace that is already in the world. Amen. And now we're ready to move into our first song, and I chose Count Your Blessings on page 153. 153. Let's sing 153.
When upon life's billows you are tempest tossed, when you are discouraged thinking all is lost, count your many blessings, name them one by one, and it will surprise you what the Lord has done. Count your blessings, name them one by one. Count your blessings, see what God has done. Count your blessings, name them one by one. Count your many blessings, see what God has done. Are you ever burdened with the load of care? Does the cross seem heavy you are called to bear? Count your many blessings, every doubt will fly, and you will be singing as the days go by. Count your blessings, name them one by one. Count your blessings, see what God has done. Count your blessings, name them one by one. Count your many blessings, see what God has done. When you look at others with their lands and gold, think that Christ has promised you his wealth untold. Count your many blessings, money cannot buy your reward in heaven or your home on high. Count your blessings, name them one by one. Count your blessings, see what God has done. Count your blessings, name them one by one. Count your many blessings, see what God has done. So amid the conflict, whether great or small, do not be discouraged, God is over all. Count your many blessings, angels will attend, help and comfort give you to your journey's end. Count your blessings, name them one by one. Count your blessings, see what God has done. Count your blessings, name them one by one. Count your many blessings, see what God has done.
Well, thank you, Evan. That is a miracle. That is a miracle in my mind, because I didn't think we were going to have the music, and I thought we were going to sing a cappella, which would have been different and fine. But we had even more verses than what appear on what page was it? 153. So there's so many blessings to count, and it is just so beautiful to have variations of the theme. So thank you very much for that. Oh, I'm just kind of still glowing in those words. It's so beautiful. And for our announcements next week, Reverend Phil Pearson will be back with us again, which is wonderful. We treasure every moment we get to spend with him. And he will be attended with Claudia, who does an excellent job on meditations and leading us in the service. So we give thanks for that. And I'll ask Catherine if she has any other announcements, and she shakes her head no. So with that, we'll move into our meditation song, which is on page 251, Flow, Spirit, Flow. What a beautiful image that was of that meandering river going through the meadow. It's so beautiful. I just thought as we were singing this that we have a wonderful resource in this hymn book. It's such a meditative thing just to open it and read the words. This was particularly written by, or the words were rewritten by Janet Manning, and every page is a treasure. And as the days go ahead, if you feel lonely or you need to be uplifted or you just want to be joyful, it's the most wonderful book to just pick up and meditate on the verses that these wonderful writers from years ago came up with, and they're still blessing us every day. So we don't have to wait until.
I still have copies of the.
Oh,
so
should they write to you or to write to you? Okay, we'll put Catherine's address up later, and she has some to share. It's a treasure. I don't think you can go to Barnes and Noble and buy one of these. So take advantage of it. And I remember my brother, who later became a minister, he said sometimes when he didn't know how to pray, he just opened the hymn book and read. And that brought him close to his center and being in the spirit. So as we take time to meditate on what we've just sung, I ask each of you to be in your own place, whatever that means for you, whether it's sitting up straight, as some encourage us to do. It's always a good idea. Having your feet on the floor may ground you in some way. And whether you have your hands relaxed in your lap or clasped together as mine are, know that God is here. God is with us. He will never leave us. And we are never alone. We are one with Spirit. We are one with God. And by having that Spirit within us, we have access anytime, anywhere. With that in mind, and with this being a Thanksgiving month, I want to share with you some Beatitudes. We all have an attitude at one time or another, and those attitudes can change. But these Beatitudes are so beautiful. And when Ben and I had a chance to go to Israel, we walked through a garden, and ever so often, feet apart, there would be these little signs, and each one was a Beatitude. So I'm going to read what I have here. And I hope that we can pause in between each one and see what the Beatitudes mean to us individually. The first one is, blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed are the poor in spirit. It might be said that means to be humble and teachable. Humble and teachable. To be open to the Spirit. Another one is, blessed are those who mourn. We don't usually see much happiness when we're mourning. But what comes as a result of that is that we do receive comfort. And so even in our mourning, we can be blessed. Blessed are the meek. Blessed are the meek. And what could be the advantage of that? They will inherit the earth. They will be grounded. And blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, because they will be filled. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be filled. Blessed or happy are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. Blessed are the merciful. Blessed or happy are the pure in heart. Pure in heart. They will see God. Blessed or happy are the peacemakers. They shall be called children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake. They will receive the kingdom of heaven. The kingdom of heaven that is within each and every one of you. So I pray that this Thanksgiving season will be a time of rejoicing, a time of thankfulness, a time of faithfulness, and a time of blessing yourself and others wherever you may go. God is good all the time. And for that, we give thanks. Amen. And now it is my joy to welcome back Reverend Phil Person. Thank you for joining us, Phil. Unmute.
Can you hear me now? All right.
Job.
Are we ready to roll then?
Yes.
We are.
I give thanks that it won't be me rolling, that hopefully Spirit will speak through me and roll out wonderful ideas that can bless all of you today. Thank you, Esther. I don't know that I thanked you yet, but I always appreciate your support and opening up wonderful consciousness. Thank you, dear. Well, like all of you, I know you appreciate the daily word today, and the concept that it reminded us of, that we are blessed with the Christ Spirit that is the whole source of freedom in our lives. And I was aware as I read it that the kind of freedom that they were primarily addressing, it would appear in the daily word, was the freedom of living harmoniously with our fellow citizens, and not just locally, but in the world. That is the freedom that we all seek. But while I was appreciating that, I found myself suddenly clicking to a Facebook scene that I had recently seen. I love all of the animal pictures that I can get on Facebook. I think I've become an expert of gorillas and sloths. Oh, I love the sloths. Any of you who also do that, you'll know there's nothing funnier than a sloth. And anyway, I enjoy this, so I often look to Facebook for an uplift or sort of further ideas. So after looking at that daily word, I found myself suddenly back in Facebook and seeing something that very clearly relates to our message for today. And it was a vision suddenly that I had, not a vision, an actual picture on Facebook of an animal caught in a trap. And this animal was, pulling and tugging to get free from this trap and making no headway. The reason it was on Facebook is that some human being came across this unfortunate situation and endeavored to help this particular animal get free from that trap. And that's not easy because, of course, as he approached the trap to try to get the animal out, the animal didn't know what was happening and was frightened by the human. And so, excuse me just a minute, I gotta adjust something here. There. So as I was saying, the animal doesn't know what was happening when the human appeared in the Facebook scene to set the animal free. And the so wonderful thing that I got from watching these things from time to time is, well, when the animal was freed from the trap, suddenly it leaps and runs and is gone. Occasionally, of course, one of the animals comes back and seems to be doing something, and it's often interpreted, I think, correctly that way. The animal came back to sort of say, thank you. But the first thing that was impressive was the minute they were out of that trap, they were gone. Actually, they came back and said thank you once in a while, which again shows that connection that we have with the animal world and consciousness. So as I thought about that, again, it popped in my head as I was reading the daily word on freedom, and I realized, the truth is that most people don't realize that humans live in a world of traps. We live in a world of traps. The humans are trapped, many humans find themselves trapped in something called illness. And they can't be free because they're so involved in their health challenges. And likewise, a lot of people feel that they are bound up because they can't begin to do things they want to do because they don't have the money. They're in the trap of lack. And then there are people who too often feel nothing but a sense of the trap of loneliness. They don't have anyone in their life to love or to love them. And so they feel lonely in that trap. Well, as I share this with you, I love how the flow comes to me because I suddenly saw the picture of Jesus coming and speaking to all of us. And when Jesus talked about freedom, he was talking about being free from these traps. He wasn't talking about free from the imprisonment that his own world had to local kings and other political leaders. He was talking about a freedom that kept you and I from being imprisoned by these basic primaries of life. The trap of health, or sickness, I should say, the trap of lack of prosperity, the trap of feeling alone. And I suppose if we were all thinking together, we'd come up with a few more traps. But those are certainly major traps. And the truth is that the world you and I live in is primarily populated by people who live constantly in those traps. They don't really feel free. They say, oh, I would like to go here, but I don't have the money. Oh, I would like to do this, but I just don't feel well enough to do it anymore. And to think that, of course, is like struggling, as I see in my mind's eye, as I have of animals pulling away at that trap on their foot, trying to get out. And whether we know it or not, most of us, I'll include us all in this, okay? That means you too. And me too. We all think, well, I want to get out of those traps. So what do? Generally, and of course, I'm speaking in a large generalization. Unfortunately, there are exceptions to all of it. But what about the trap of illness? I mean, that can really cut things down for you so that you feel imprisoned. How do you get out of that? Well, you know what the world does. It says, well, I'll go to my friendly doctor because they maybe got a medicine for this and this will get me out of it. And it may be of temporary assistance for some people and they feel, whoa, I got out of that trap. But ultimately, that trap is very apt to appear again. So the question is, where do you go then? You've gotten the best of doctors and medicine. And the same thing is true of the trap of loneliness. The trap of lack is a very tricky one because the way you try to get out of that trap is to get more money. I mean, if you don't feel you have enough to live life abundantly, you are looking for ways to increase that flow and that income, which again is trying to pull yourself out of the trap. Well, what I want to affirm for us today is that the only lasting way out of those traps is, as the dead word was speaking of just for living in a world of freedom, it is through turning to spirit. And of course, essentially, this is where Jesus was coming from in his sharing with us. He came to the world and pronounced this wonderful word. He didn't use this language, but he said, if you feel trapped every day of your life, I've got an answer for you. And the answer is you and the Father are one, just like I am, one with my Father. And it is the Father alone that has the capacity to free us from the traps of life. So if we hear that word of Jesus, we say, well, how do we go about doing this? As I have affirmed so often on this program, my answer is to constantly work to develop your very personal relationship with the God presence in your life. And to know that Jesus meant it when he said, the Father That's our Father. He didn't say my Father. Our Father, my Father, our Father, rather, our Father is within you. And it is the Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. And let's rephrase that today and say, it is the Father's good pleasure to free you from all traps in life. The trap of lack, the trap of illness, the trap of aging, etc., etc., etc. You and I do not have to live in those traps, but we have to walk in the path of Jesus, which is to develop the intimate relationship with the God presence within us. I know I have affirmed that often, and I affirm it for myself so often. And it's when I'm working on the ideas to share with you, I always end up in the same blinking place. I think it's all wrapped up. Whatever message we're trying to say, it comes back to the fact of realize Jesus wasn't kidding with us. The Father and I are one is your message. You are one with the Father, but you've got to claim your heritage. And you do that by beginning to think that way. So in that awareness, if we are wise enough to realize that there are these traps in life that are very real, the trap is a center of consciousness established in humanity that says the only way out of the trap of sickness is to get the best physical help you can get. Or the only way to have more income is to find a way to create more money yourself, etc. This last one, by the way, is where I would say humanity seems to be now. All over the earth, I think that the constant problems we have of a negative nature, like all the poor health, the weather conditions that we're having across this country. I mean, the scientists, of course, quickly step in and say, well, that's because of all the negative energy that humanity has put in, and that's changing the weather or the heat presence on the earth, and it's causing all this problem. Well, that might be a physical result, but all the problem is, as we've affirmed in many times, in many ways before, is all coming from the consciousness of humanity. The consciousness of humanity is constantly putting energy into the world that creates that which is like they are sending forth. So if we are sending forth messages of being trapped and feeling the energy of that, we create in the world negative energies that produce what we're having in our world today. And as I say, so much of it depends upon, or not depends upon, too much of the desire of humanity to accept their imprisonment is to find more money. I know I've heard this before, but I would say this is probably the most common thought that humans, at least in our particular culture, hold, and that is everybody wants to get more money. So much of what you hear advertised are ways how you can participate to make more money. Because, as I say, the basic thought is, whether people put it in this language or not, is if I can get more money, I can hire the best doctors. I'll get rid of this sickness stuff that's tying me up. And I'll certainly have lots of friends when I get more money. That's the answer. But of course, that isn't the answer. The answer is the work in consciousness. And so as humans who are so often caught up in these traps, the way to get out of that trap is to bring in the picture, as I sometimes see when a human finds an animal caught in a trap, That human comes in and risks his own well-being to get that animal out of that trap. In this case, it's the consciousness of Jesus Christ that can come into our lives and say, this is the way out of the trap. It isn't in money. It isn't in collecting more friends through being so wealthy. It isn't any of those answers. It is in living day by day with the sense that I live and move and have my being in God. I live and move and have my being in God. And in regular language, that says I live and move and have my being daily on a very practical basis with God. And so therefore, I carry on a conversation with this presence in my life. And I look to this presence as a guidance for the way out of any trap in my life, whether that be sickness, loneliness, or lack. God has an answer for me. And when I say this to you, I realize that's a big statement. If you throw that out to people who don't know anything about unity or all that, they say, oh, come on. I mean, but they have not been blessed to have experienced what it is to feel that presence with you in your life all the time, so real that you can talk with it and share your thoughts and your love and expect wonderful things to happen. Expect your healing. Expect to be able to age without illness. And as I say that too, I think I want to insert here, death itself is no tragedy. Because somebody is thinking, oh, come on, eventually it gets you, and then you die. Yeah, there is no loss in death. And as true students, we're blessed to know that. So anyway, I'm affirming for us today that, as I say, most of us tend to live in traps, and there is a way out of the trap, and the way is to live your life on a practical daily basis with God's presence and rely upon that presence to guide you, inspire you to do that which will bless you. This is not in my thought until this moment. I finally find myself thinking of living here as I do in a retirement community, which means people usually from 60 up live here. And some, like my good friend Bob Lagoy, who is a Unity student, and the reason I'm here, I knew he was here, and I got drawn here to live. But Bob is 99, and on not Good Fortune Day, on April, what's April say? April Fool's Day. That's his birthday. April Fool's Day, which is not Friday. He's going to be 100. And you know what? He ain't limping around no way. No place. He going all the time. He wants me tomorrow to take him to a place where they're giving free lunch to veterans, etc. The museum, a car museum downtown. He's ready to go. I'm debating. I don't like cars that much. But anyway, that's his energy. He's a good Unity student. You know, Dorothy and I, years ago, introduced Bob and his wife to Unity, and they helped to build the Unity Center and the church that's here in Reno now. So anyway, as I view the people that live here, you've got somebody like Bob in relation to other people who are just creeping around and they're only 70 years old. And they are, as I say, bless their hearts, they're caught in the trap of things that they believe. And as I look at Esther, some of the things they're caught in the trap is they think that sweets are good for you at all times, in all places. And it just ain't so. And, you know, as part of inviting God in to get you out of the trap is you're inspired to the wisdom of right use and of right living. And I won't pursue that, but any event, let's see, there was one other thing I wanted to say. How am I doing? Where am I? Oh, yeah. I wanted to say that as the Daily Word was speaking about our relationship to things in the world in general, and the upcoming Armistice Day, which is our celebration of veterans, I thought I would remind you of one story that I've shared with you before, I know, but I love it. And it's when I got my foot caught in one of the biggest vices you can get caught in. I was drafted. When you get drafted by the United States government, you're in a trap to their consciousness. So what do you do when you're caught in such a trap? Well, you do what we've said. You begin to affirm God is at the center of my life, and nothing can limit me. And therefore, as I at that time was thinking, I said, even though I'm being drafted when we were at the height of the Korean War, and after I finished boots, and some of you know I'd already gone through the Navy in World War II, and I finished boots for the Army now, which was good because I was almost 40 then when I was going through boots in the Army. So that was a real blessing. I got to put back in shape again. But in any event, I began the work of what I'm affirming today, of knowing that there's nothing as powerful as the activity of God in my life to release me from any negative trap. And to me, it was a negative trap to be facing going to the Korean front, not only to get killed, which I wasn't eager to do, but more importantly, I couldn't imagine, even though I practiced in boots how to put a bead on another human being and pull the trigger. I couldn't imagine shooting at even a Chinaman that I'd never seen before. I just couldn't imagine. And so I put this sense of being bound up to what was, because I was I was released from boots to be in the infantry. Well, the infantry was all heading for the Korean front. And so I was busy giving thanks that God presence in my life could guide me how to be set free from what the obvious path that I was on, which was to go to the Korean front. So I got out, I had an infantry rating, which said that's where I was going. And I had my break time before I had to report to duty further. And it was in that time that I was living as close as I could get to God and to the certainty that God loved me and would not ask me to do that which was contrary to my highest thought of good. And so I was working on that. When I got my orders, instead of saying that I had an infantry rating and I was going to the front, it said I was to get on the USS Patton and go to Europe. That's all commands I got. I thought, what in heaven's name is that about? In all honesty, I hadn't begun to think, I think God's at work. But anyway, I did that and I got there and I went to Zweibrücken, Germany. And there I was told I was going to be placed. Well, I began to think, well, I don't think they're going to send me from here up to Korea, and giving thanks to God for that. And lo and behold, the orders that I was given was that I was supposed to go to a post called Croix Chapeau, 4 hats in French, which was in France. And on the way there, I sat with a guy and he said, you're going there? That's the worst place in the world. You'll hate it. It's all mud and rain. Oh, it's going to be awful. I thought, oh, dear God, did you take me out of the fire and put me in the soup? In any event, I got to Croix Chapeau, and right away I was assigned, I guess because I was a college graduate and all, I was made I can't think of the Army word for it. But anyway, I sat out outside the colonel's office, who was in charge of the post. I was assigned to just sit there, and when the bell rang, I went in and did whatever he wanted me to do. That's what I was going to do. But sitting out there, I got acquainted with the master sergeant of the post. And lo and behold, the master sergeant called me in the office. And by the way, a master sergeant really runs the post, not the colonel. The colonel has it in title, but the master sergeant runs the post. Anyway, the master sergeant called me in the office and he said, Pearson, now mind you, I haven't thought about any of this. I had no idea how to get out of that trap that I was involved in there. And he called me and he said, Pearson, I've been observing you. I think you could take over a job that I've been doing. And my wife says, his wife's in the picture. Think how God's working. He got the wife, and the wife goes to the master sergeant. She says, I'm so tired of you traveling all the time. Why don't you get out of the job? And he said, so I thought, well, I can do that. He says, and Pearson, I think you could take over that job. So I found myself suddenly in charge of all the athletic programs for the post. So I was now in charge of the football and baseball teams that the post had, and that involved planning the travel for where you would go to play and participate in other posts. And it also meant I didn't have to stand any duty rosters at all, as far as lining up with everybody outside early in the morning when the reveille blew, or not reveille, the wake up call, whatever that was at that time. I didn't have to do any of that because I was now under the master sergeant's, and what he said went. So I was free to just think, where do we want to take a football team now? And so I'd find a post, and the ones I found most often were around Paris. And so that was my job, put together transportation, take the team to Paris and make sure the team was billeted rightly and all of that. And so I then spent the rest of my time until I was separated and sent back to post, just doing that. Never standing military formation again. I was free as could be to have fun choosing where we would go in France or Germany to play. Wow, that's pretty good, duty, don't you think? I saw wonderful things and know Europe in ways that few people do know. So anyway, I share all that with you to say that even in the strictest trap, and that's when you are drafted into the service, you are at the will and the call of the United States and their leaders. But anyway, I just still marvel at the whole thing. There's nothing that God cannot overcome to give you a fulfillment of your highest good. Nothing. There are no traps big enough to hold you. And all we have to do is what I was fortunate enough to have already built confidence in. And that is that if I turn my life over to God, I can expect good. I was shook up a little bit. I was shook up when I thought I was going to be shipped to Korea. I got shook up a little bit when I thought I was going to Kwashiorkor, a mud hole. But fortunately, it always turned out for the best because God knows the way out of the trap. And we make it difficult sometimes to get out of that trap, but God will always get us out of the trap. So when we think about our lives today, I invite you to affirm with me, first of all, there is no trap in life big enough to hold you. Aging does not have to be a trap because Spirit can put things into your life that will make them very fulfilling at any age. There is no trap of sickness that can hold you if you just don't settle into going the usual way, unless it's been directed and guided by your contact with your God presence that is within you. And there's no trap of lack that can hold you if you depend upon God to open the doors without you thinking day in and day out, how do I get more money? God will provide. And it may not come in the form of money. It may come in the form of some other outworking that makes money unnecessary. God always has a way. But you and I have to welcome the consciousness that comes to take us out of the trap. Again, I'm back at the picture of the animals suffering with a trap on his foot, and then a human being comes along, and you can see that animal looking at the human and first resisting the human's approach, but finally relaxing and letting the human get them out of the trap. So we learn to relax and let God get us out of the traps that come along in life. The most common, of course, is illness, aging, and for many, finances. Those are all traps, just as real as the ones we get animals in. And to get them out, we have to let the presence that is there for us to help us out of the trap. God is that presence. God is in your life. I tell you the story from time to time of how I've been blessed by knowing and trying to live that truth. And I affirm it again for you today. I know we've talked about it. I know you give lip service to it and often make it work. But I go over this again for you and for me so I don't forget it. Traps can spring up out of the blue sometimes, and we don't want to falter in immediately knowing it's okay. I live and move and have my being in the presence of God, and God is the absolute answer to whatever it is that I need to get me out of this trap. Thank you, God. Well, I bless you today, and I see every one of you knowing the joy of feeling God's presence and the security of it, of knowing that nothing can keep you trapped in life. You are free to be who God wants you to be. And I love you, and have a wonderful day.
Well, thank you so much, Phil. Thank you. That's one of the things I love about Unity is its practicality. You know, things that we can really take into our life and apply every day and learn from and practice and increase in strength as we take those thoughts into our mind and know there's nothing that can hold us back. Nothing can hold us back. Well, it's the time that we get to participate, not only being a channel of God's love, but being a channel of his resources. And so I offer all of you the opportunity to take your tithe or your offering and bless it. And as we send it this season to Catherine, please be sure to also request a hymn book if you would like to have that. And so we just bless everyone who is here to serve for us. And Emma's going to put her name and address on the board so that you can see where to send the offerings. And there's things that we still have expenses as time winds down, and we want to bless those that are in charge not to have any anxiety over having enough. There's always enough, and we just pray that you'll be led to serve in that way, as well as your consciousness of giving your spirit on a weekly basis as we meet here together. Well, since Phil was talking about freedom, it's only appropriate that we turn to page 322 and sing, I am free, I am unlimited. And in Phil's words, we could sing, I am free, I am unlimited. There are no traps that bind me. I am free, I am unlimited right now, right now. So now you are all free to unmute yourself as we say our prayer of protection together. So please unmute yourself and let's make it a beautiful chorus. The light
Light of God surrounds
us.
me. The love of God enfolds me. The power of God protects me. The presence of God watches over me. Wherever I am, God is, and all is well.
Bless you, bless you, bless you. Thank you, Phil, for a wonderful practical lesson. And we'll see you all next week.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Everybody.
Love the Beatitude meditation, Esther. That was brilliant.
Yeah, that was nice. Bye, everybody.
Have a good week.